Now, getting back to my original point, God speaking the words, "Let there be light." Now, for light to come into existence simultaneously and spontaneously immediately violates the second law of thermodynamics. Now, to the best of our knowledge, energy is not created or destroyed. If it were created out of nothingness, you would have to describe what nothingness was to be able to suddenly propagate something, the idea, concept, and form of something such as light, and cause it to come into existence out of that nothingness. Therefore, that nothingness in and of itself would have to have some inherent properties that would have a cause and effect relationship that would have a direct impact in how that thing was structured, what light is, and how it's able to manifest itself into our reality as a waveform of energy, like I just touched on a few moments ago. Now, the words, "Let there be light," if God can be assumed to be a being like ourselves, having vocal cords and speaking those words, literally actually saying the words through his mouth or some similar system of communication as such as we possessed, "Let there be light," in and of itself is just symbols that we've ascribed to specific circumstances, specific events, specific ideas that are an autosuggestive construct, basically designed to initiate certain reactions in minds of people and therefore produce a certain thought pattern as a result, and people will have certain connotations and certain biases built up in their psyche, in their mind, of what that thing means. So saying "let there be light," unless God was able to project certain harmonic frequencies of what light is and how it's going to manifest itself, he would have to therefore encode those things within the autosuggestive symbols of "let there be light." And in and of itself, those words, as we know them, are merely that. They're just symbology. They're a system of sophisticated symbols and autosuggestive forms that initiate certain mental or psychosomatic reactions, and therefore resonate and have a certain meaning to our consciousness, our awareness of what they are. Now, God be existing in this void before the universe was created, why would he just suddenly decide to create light? Wouldn't it have always existed in his own consciousness in the first place? And if it didn't, and where did it come from? The motivating principle for God's thought of light and what it was and how it was going to manifest itself must also therefore logically be encoded in his psyche somewhere, and therefore had to have had something within itself that would give it that idea and form. It had to have a motivating principle. So therefore, that in and of itself, the concept of God is defeated in its intent and purpose to produce an autosuggestive image in someone's mind of what a supreme being is. Yes, there are intelligent beings existing in other dimensions that we are not aware of yet, that are capable of certain feats that are considered godlike, but merely speaking words in and of itself is not going to accomplish something such as was depicted in Genesis in the Bible, where the Lord just spoke those words and suddenly there was light. There has to be definite scientific principles in motion for those things to have come into place in the first place, and you cannot ever arrive at a conclusion that is satisfactory based on the observed scientific principles that we see in the universe about us. Like I said, the regularity of how electromagnetic energy or light, radiation, etc. propagates itself is constant. There are different frequencies of light that we perceive as having different colors, etc. But really, the manner in which those things manifest themselves, the motivating principles behind their structure, their form, and their propagation, and their continued existence in our consciousness, even as an abstract idea, means that the scientific principles of the universe are ever in effect in our minds in determining what those things are. They still exist, but in a more tangible way if we're able to observe and repeat what they are. And those things having that tangible reality as a specific form, even if the form and the constructs which we describe them with are realized in a different way between different groups of people. God in and of himself does not exist. There is a force, like I said, of an infinite nature that propagates and repropagates all forms simultaneously, equally, without any particular dispensation towards any one group of people, Ancient Jews believed they were the chosen people of God. Why? Because somebody told them long ago that they were going to be the chosen people. So they could be led and herded like sheep and manipulated by someone who's astute enough to become an administrator of a mass of gullible, ignorant people, primitive people, that were existing in those lands in Egypt, thousands of years ago. And the same system has continued to be propagated today in modern Christianity, the Roman Catholic Church being an outstanding example of a despotic symbology and basically pagan spirit worship and idol worship, clothed in modern form, but basically essentially the same as primitive witchcraft and sorcery that's still practiced among certain Aboriginal tribes in the jungles. Just a readapted form is all it is, and has no place in a logical scientific society. There is a certain motivating principle that gives us all our own essence, our own individuality, our own perspective on things, and the force that governs that is not predisposed towards a certain group of people. It's not predisposed towards a certain individual person, and automatically any depiction that would suggest such a being is automatically defeatist based on our own observation of how the universe itself is conducted.